there were like some leaks from a cancelled God of War multiplayer game, which is God of War come from. Yeah, it's one of the games that I love. Like have you played God of War? Have you played the reboots like the Dad God, Dad Kratos? Have you played those ones? Those are amazing. One of the best games I've ever played. And if you remember, there was a whole era of PlayStation just a couple of years ago. Um, Sony was going through this weird era where they wanted to make everything an online multiplayer game. You should play God of War games, dude. Those are freaking amazing. One of the best games ever. Like especially the reboots, they're awesome. Hits you right in the feels. So if you haven't played, you should definitely play them. They had a whole era where they wanted to make everything online game, online multiplayer shooter or whatever online service game, right? They were at one point working on every single IP they owned, like Uncharted, The Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn. We still actually getting a multiplayer version of Horizon Zero Dawn for some reason. We were gonna get online multiplayer version of The Last of Us, but it got toned down, and we got like this weird like horde mode for that now. I don't know what it's called, but it's available with Last of Us Part 2. We were gonna get one for Uncharted, so they were like working on so many IPs, like multiplayer online versions of it. And God of War didn't escape that. They were working on a multiplayer for God of War as well. And we kind of heard about this a little bit, but then it didn't stick around because multiplayer games didn't do so hot. This is that God of War multiplayer they were working on. We never got to see the light of day as to what the hell happened to it because they went and cancelled most of these multiplayer games because they had a lot of backlash from people, and they were like, why, what the heck are you doing, Sony? Like, honestly, are you losing your damn mind? They literally had to go and cancel some of this stuff. Bluepoint Games, they are like third party developers that helps to remake games. Sony is clearly far from finished with the God of War franchise, with several projects currently in the works, ranging from a TV show for Prime Video to a heavily rumored 2D Metroidvania that would return to Greece, drawing inspiration from games like Blasphemous. Despite this robust slate, some fans may know that another project from the saga was scrapped not too long ago. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Report at the start of the year mentioned PlayStation was cutting 2 live station projects from its first party studios. These were unannounced games from Bend Studio, of which we revealed an early look last year, and a multiplayer God of War game that was being developed by Bluepoint Games. Oh, they made the Demon Souls remaster. That's right. So when the PS5 launched, they had a Demon Souls remake, and that remake was done by Bluepoint Games, and it was a pretty good remake. Very good. It wasn't done by From Software. All this time, I remember we were speculating back in the day, are we gonna get like some Bloodborne remake done by Bluepoint Game because they did such a good job with Demon Souls? We never got it, but it turns out they were working on a multiplayer for God of War for some reason. This cancellation caught many by surprise, with details sparse beyond the fact that it was supposed to be a multiplayer game set in the God of War universe. Thankfully, we recently gained access to development screenshots that offer a detailed look at the game's planned setting. So we had, so these are like the shots that's been released. So if you look at these shots, you can very clearly say they were planning to go back to like the Greek setting in God of War, like the Greek setting that was the focus on the old God of War games, not the soft reboots with the dad Kratos. I mean, you can see these were like some of the. It looks like sort of concept artwork rather than like screenshots from the game. To be honest, you can see like some of these like very intentionally done. And here you can see like it's the same shot, but you have like a normal interior here, and then the next one you got some red stuff all over the wall and like red rot everywhere. It's the same location, but one of them doesn't have the rot, one of them has the rot. So it looks like these might have been some concept art Looks like Medusa's lair. Yeah, it does look like Medusa's lair. It could be. But yeah, it looks like they were very clearly going back to the Greek setting in the multiplayer, but I don't know whether they were planning to do it like connected to the canon, the official canon, or like separate from it. But it wouldn't have made sense to have Dad Kratos go back to Greece, and I don't know. It wouldn't have made sense. So I don't know. Maybe they were trying to do like a separate thing that's not officially part of the story, but it's just a multiplayer with the characters, which would have been weird too. It would have been weird. I don't know if people would have ate that up, but yeah, it's just some of the texture work, and this is. I assume these were leaks from like some of the artists from the game developer, like development company Bluepoint. They probably put this in their portfolio or resume, and that's probably where it got tagged, sort of got discovered. Maybe don't even have proper textures on them. It's not a lot to go by, but by the look of it, it seems like they would have been kind of far along with the multiplayer, but then it just didn't take off because, as we know now, they got a lot of backlash from the players, and then their recent online multiplayer games didn't really take off that much. Concord, Concord they thought would be like a big hit. They marketed that so heavily. We were told that Hades would have been the owner of the armory, as well as the yellow sulfur pools visible in the caverns. Okay. So if the game was meant to fit into the established canon at all, the environment of a living Hades suggests a timeline prior to the events of God of War 3. Yeah, that's what I mean. So especially if they're gonna have Hades as the armorer or whatever, that wouldn't have made sense to have that be part of the game. If you have played the game, you know that Hades is well and truly unalived by the time God of War 3 happens. They probably were trying to fit it in between those two stories or have it not be part of the story at all. But I think it's really interesting that they were working on a Greek inspired God of War multiplayer game. Kind of happy that didn't take off. I don't think people would have ate it up. Oh, hey, there you go. This is showing the difference between those two images. There you go. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that, but it looks like there might have been some sort of different states of the world that's affecting you in some way. Maybe the brain rot, the red rot. You see, maybe that's affecting you negatively in some way in the world, or it's I don't know. It looks like there was a lot of effort going into the game already before it got cancelled. God of War really, really works well as a single player adventure game. The way it plays, combat is really solid. The heavy attacks, light attacks, using the axe, throw axe, and calling it back. That is those felt amazing. Amazing. I had a lot of fun. But I don't know if that would translate really well into a multiplayer scenario. It just doesn't work because the part of the fun is the really well done storytelling, the amazing settings that you go into, the big bosses you fight. That's the thrill of God of War. I don't know how that will translate into a multiplayer setting. It just doesn't make sense to me. Eventually, it looks like it didn't make sense to them either, so they scrapped it.